So today, Myers Square. People in HEMA have been looking at this for the better part of 2 decades. And so the question is, what happens when we take the fundamentals that we've been developing for longsword, the broader fundamentals, things like, one cut, one step, Krump for defense, and the frequency modus kind of flow, how does that affect our practice of Myers Square, and what can we do to actually remember the sequence? There's actually very simple logic, which we'll talk about today. So today, talking about Myers Square, I think there's an easy path that we could go start is actually just trying to understand the pattern, and we're going to get there in a minute. I think a lot of people kind of focus on trying to make sure they actually know the sequence of what the different cuts are. But before we even worry about that, the other thing that's really important, no matter what that sequence is, what are the mechanics that really support those cuts? In particular, footwork is one big piece that we'll talk about today so that we can actually make those cuts flow nicely. And then also one of the big questions that Meyer really doesn't help us with, and the German tradition tends not to help us with in general, is when they say things like Versetzen, parry, defend, what do they even mean, right? I think that's been a big challenge to try to find a consistent answer for. And today, we're going to propose actually using Krump as the default defense. And I say that mostly because in the sort of conventional HEMA wisdom, a lot of people tend to pick static plow and ox kind of parries. And one of the great things about Krump is that it's a little bit of a catch-all. So depending on whatever angle is coming down at a cut for the attack, Krump actually tends to catch it all. And so unlike static parries like ox and plow, I don't have to choose. I don't have to pick ox and then find that I should have done plow, et cetera, et cetera. So Krump is very catch-all in that kind of sense. So we'll find that actually that really helps us make it very, very simple for the defender, who is the partner for the person doing Myers Square. So that being said, so mounted behind me, you can see the Myers Square kind of laid out. There's a lovely diagram that Meyer actually put together. And the way it works is there's basically sort of like 4 different sequences of Myers Square. They're always in groups of 4 cuts. The cuts always alternate from side to side. And there is actually a bit of a logic to the pattern, which we'll talk about in a second. It's always pairs of diagonal cuts, alternating sides. And the 4 sequences, you can see, you kind of work from sort of like the outer set of 4 numbers inward. So 1, 2, 3, 4 is the first sequence. So for me to actually execute that, it's going to look like here, 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 here. Okay, so that's that basic sequence. And then you just kind of repeat that same logic starting for the next sequence over here, which is going to look like here, 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 here. Okay? And so on and so forth, just repeat that. There's in fact a way to actually remember that without even bothering to look at the pattern. And here's the logic. All right, so if you take the sort of initial sequence where you actually start from the right, and I'll do this way so you can check against the diagram. The way I always think about it is I start from a quadrant and I always cut diagonal. And again, we're alternating sides, so here. And then I've already cut this quadrant. The quadrant I haven't cut is over here. And I know I have to go to the other side. So it's got to be here. And then there's only one quadrant I haven't done on the other side. So it's got to be this. So again, so it's a pair of diagonals here, here, and then here, here. Okay. And then I can pick any other quadrant that I want. The same rules will apply. So say I start here. It's here, 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 here. Okay. So that's, to me, like kind of the easiest way to actually think about it. So if you actually string them together, this is where footwork actually starts becoming really important. Okay, so when I do all four, what I want to emphasize is I don't want to do footwork this way. I don't want to go here, 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 right? And a lot of people, when they do this, they're actually going to be moving forward, which is very natural. And so you'll see stuff like, right? When I really start to go fast with this, that is going to absolutely slow me down. And my feet will not be able to catch up with my hands. So going back to those fundamentals that we've been talking about, one step, one cut. Okay, so it really should be here, 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 here. Okay, and I'll do that towards the camera, give you a couple of different angles. Here, 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 here. Okay, and so notice center line here, I'm sort of straddling it as I'm going. I don't have to, however. And again, this is where our broader footwork stuff comes in, because I can do this sideways. I can go here, 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 right? Or here, 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 right? So I can start using those sorts of box step pivotal footwork things that we introduced a couple of videos ago. So I can do moving forward, I can move sideways, I can move backwards, I can do things where I'm actually pivoting. All of that allows me to basically move in two-dimensional space very smoothly. And so put all that stuff together, what Meyer describes for the Meyer square then basically looks something like this. So you're going to slash upward a few times, like 3 times. You get to long point, you drop your point, and you start your sequence here, 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 here. Okay, and then from there you cut away with the turn and get out. So again, here, 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 here. That's another spheric to get out. Okay. So that's the basic sequence there. Are there any things to kind of call out? We're actually going to do the video for Meyer square actually in a couple of parts. Today is really just kind of the basics. The next video we do will probably be much more in-depth because it's going to be variations, and Meyer gives quite a few variations. I'll mention a couple of them right now. One is talking about using the sort of different edges of the sword, right? So in addition, everything I just did was with the long edge. I can totally do this with the short edge, which is one of the variations he asks for. So I can explore things like short edge, long edge, short edge, long edge, sort of like spheric equivalents. I can also do things with flats, where I go flat, 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 with the so-called inside flat and the outside flat. So all of those things you can basically play with. And then starting to get into like really interesting tempo things, he basically introduces the idea of feints, Felers in the German tradition. So he'll do sequences where if I'm doing, here's my sequence, right? All of those are normally hits. So I can actually throw a Feler in there on the third one. So for instance, hit, hit, run off and hit, right? So I pull this early. So that's a single Feler. You can do a double Feler with 2 and 3 in the middle. So hit, fail, fail, hit, okay? And then Meyer talks about one where you're actually doing 2 Felers at the beginning and then 2 hits. So basically, Feler, Feler, hit, hit, okay? So all of those are just sort of like tempo things that you're kind of playing with. Another thing that he really emphasizes also, and this is a really good thing for people to remember, anytime they're doing Unterhaus, when you cut, make sure that you are behind the sword, right? So from here, if someone extends his long point to my head, I better have that covered, right? So people often do remember this from above, but from here, they'll kind of end up here, and the line to my head is still open. Okay, so get behind that sword. Get behind the sword. Okay, I think that's plenty for today. And so next week, we're basically going to build on that and look at a whole bunch of variations, which again, with those fundamentals, particularly with footwork, one cut, one step, we'll actually start to find when we're doing these kinds of steps, that's exactly the kind of stuff that Meyer's actually calling on us to be able to do some of these more complicated blade variations. So see you next time.